Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Essentially Heroes. Etienne got me, and joined by my partner in crime, as always,
Johnny Farris. Yo, 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 what up, folks? Happy to be here.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, happy Halloween.
That's right.
Big time for spooks has come, yeah.
Yeah, we were, for anyone that's interested, we did a Halloween podcast a couple years ago. This was a few months before the world changed, and we were intent on doing that again. That is going to come, but I'm going to have a guest, our old friend Justin Adkins, to hopefully join us soon enough. But in the meantime, we're going to give you another spooky entry into the DC universe of superheroes and supervillains. So for your
finally back to DC.
Your Halloween pod needs. Yes, exactly. You know how excited I get about that.
And yes, we are covering a bit of a unique entry in, I guess, the DCE or just DC's roster in general. And that is the Swamp Thing TV show. The legendary Swamp Thing TV show that was taken from us before its time, but left its mark on the fandom and, you know, on comic book shows in general. So we're here to cover that today.
We're dealing with something beyond the known scope of science.
I need it alive to study.
There's all kinds of awful that happens in this swamp.
There's something special about this place.
It is such a loss. It really is, because it was. It looks like it debuted in the DC Universe. Just to give you some backstory, the DC Universe app was the predecessor to HBO Max, to where all the DC TV shows, cartoons, full feature films, just about anything that will fill your DC need is now in HBO Max. But before that, I think it was 17 or 18. I don't remember when they announced it, but they did the DC Universe app, where the intent was to have every one of those shows start there. And you had to have the app. It was a little weird because it was pre Disney Plus. It was certainly pre HBO Max. At that point, I think there was a question of to HBO Go, HBO Plus. There was other things that were happening at that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you had to have this DC Universe app, and I don't even know, like, it was weird. I think you could get it on Roku, but otherwise you had to have it on your phone, or you get it on an iPad, I guess. So I was excited. I jumped on it right away. And when they first announced it, I got that app because I wanted to be I was eager. I was eager to see the shows that they were announcing. They were talking about Titans, which we did a podcast on. We need to get back to it. Doom Patrol was a later feature. I don't think it was on the DC Universe app initially. The Harley Quinn animated show, which is hysterical and crazy, was on there first with different content, actually. There was more content in that show. And then I believe the Swamp Thing show was there just the same. And canceled after one season, or I believe it was actually canceled before the season had even finished, which is heartbreaking, because the show, after getting into it, is for me, a superhero fan unlike anything I've seen in the way of like, there's one other character I think that is similar to what this show does, but even there it's a different element. This is one of the closest things that I can ever recall watching that is horror. I don't know about you, but just about every show is as scary as can be for a superhero show, I think, without being like over the top, rated R, gory, blood, that sort of thing. You tell me. I mean, that's my take on it.
I do have a good few thoughts on it. In terms of its place among comic book shows, and just in terms of the show itself. Before I jump into, the good, the bad, and the crazy, as we always do,
that's right.
I think we should do a little spot check right here and give some love to a very good friend of ours.
Yes, we are sponsored, folks, by Class & Co. co-working space. They're located in Brooklyn. They've got 2 different locations, one in Williamsburg and one in Greenpoint, just off of the train stops there, the respective train stops. That being Manhattan Avenue train stop, and then the other one, Graham Station in Williamsburg. Not just co-working, they have beautiful event spaces. The Manhattan Avenue spot in Greenpoint has this really, really cool setup now where they actually do the projection film color thing that they do on the walls. I forgot what it's called, but it's amazing. It's beautiful. They've got a rooftop. It's very, very fun and a great area to go if you are in need of co-working space or event space. So please feel free to check them out at classandco.com. Thank you, Class & Co. We are also giving a shout out to a good friend of ours. We have an actor who is yet to be seen on film. Once the episode does finally get finished and released, you will get to see a good friend of mine and his acting chops on film as a villain in a superhero episode that I've been working on now for quite some time. But he fared in Ferris Comics as my villain, Porter. Something of a villain, you'll see. But he and his son are doing an excellent podcast that I've now come to listen to on the regular. It is called Talking 10. So we'd like to give a shout out to Talking 10. That's the number 10. It's my friend Tony and his son Nino. And they talk about sports. They talk about kids' sports especially. They get into psychology of it, the sports angle. They've talked about movies. They talk about podcasts and inspirational stuff. It's fantastic. So please check them out when you get the chance, wherever you get your podcast tunes or moments or shows. Talking 10.
Yes, shout out to Talking 10.
So where were we? Yeah, so you left it off with the good, the bad, and the crazy is a good way to put what we do, I think, or what we how we break down our the fantastic content that comes out of DC and out of Marvel and out of everything else that I want to do in the way of superheroes and villains and everything in between. But when it comes to this show, like I said, for me, I'm not a horror guy. I've acted in more horror movies than I've watched, and I enjoy doing that. I enjoy acting when I'm pressed to do so, or when the role calls upon me, if you will, or when Justin Atkins calls upon me to kill me in a movie. But I'm not a big horror fan. I don't like horror movies generally. There's some things I do like. There's like as we've talked about many times, buddy cop action movies. That's the where I love to be. That's what I want to watch. I want to get in. I want to get out. I enjoy the action. I do enjoy the cop drama aspects of it. I do enjoy the detective parts of those sort of shows.
Detective Comics.
Certainly. Exactly. DC. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Batman, especially. From what I understand, the upcoming Batman movie is getting into that heavily. The detective aspect of what he does. People forget that he's the world's greatest detective. And there's a lot of that happening here in this show. Also, it's not just this creepy horror combination of this backwater swamp town combined with monsters and science and the CDC aspect, which was awesome, actually.
Yeah, that was one thing that kind of caught me off guard, or not caught me off guard, but I didn't expect it to go that way when I first went into the show, which was the investigative element between the investigating the actual because in the show it centers around this plant virus that's infecting this town. So
right.
The I suppose the main character of the show, the CDC agent, going into the town and investigating the cause and possible cures. And then also this
Abby Arcane.
Abby Arcane.
What's going on here is defying all laws of biology as we know it. This darkness is challenging the way I look at the world.
And then also there is a crime element to it as well, like a crime procedural element to it as well, where there's this sort of conspiracy that's going on, and so their character's trying to get to the bottom of that as well. So you're kind of we're definitely dipping into some detective territory here, and so that was interesting to see.
Right.
For me, moving on, like another one of the big like pros that I came across with the series actually was the practical effects. So with this being a horror series, like the effects are kind of A1, like they're prioritized, like they have to kind of be on point, and I think that it definitely does deliver a lot with the practical effects. So you've seen that John Carpenter movie, The Thing, right?
Yeah, a long time ago. I need to rewatch that actually. That's a Justin Atkins favorite right there.
Oh yeah, big time. But yeah, one of the biggest things about that movie is that all of the crazy effects of body morphing and body horror is done practically. So there are actual like physical elements there on the set with the actors, and there's all this like changing body types because it's constantly transforming and taking over bodies. And so I was reminded of that going into this, especially like with the first few episodes where you have people just turning into plant creatures a little bit, like their bodies are like morphing into these like grotesque plant abominations as they're infected with the virus. And even aside from that, there's also like a few I guess you can call them monsters that that show up during the course of the series. And there's even with the titular Swamp Thing himself, that was kind of what impressed me a lot, was the fact that they sort of brought this character to life that I wasn't really sure how he would look in live action, like because when you go into a lot of superhero movies nowadays, they kind of like tone down the costumes, and they kind of find ways around making it like 100% comic accurate, because a lot of times it may sort of change the vibe that they're going for. But I think with this, they stayed pretty much 100% faithful to like how the character looks in the comics. So that was really impressive to me.
And he was big. Like part of what happens, part of my problem in a lot of the film and TV depictions of these characters is the characters all of a sudden like 4 feet shorter than what is envisioned in the comic. But that is not the case here. Swamp Thing is LeBron James size. Like he's like he's a big, scary, hulky looking character. And you're right.
Really,
you're right.
They shoot it that way. I forget the name of the guy who plays him in the show.
Derek, hold on. So he was. I was curious myself.
Because it's a different guy than the guy who plays Alec Holland.
Certainly, Alec Holland is a little dude.
Yeah, I think is something Bean. I think is his name.
Andy Bean is Alec Holland. He's the actor who plays Alec Holland. Apparently, he was in Power, which I've only watched a few episodes of. He was an FBI agent, but Derek Mears is who plays Swamp Thing. And if I don't know. This is again, our old horror friend Rusty knows these characters, knows this actor. I'm sure from apparently he was in Friday the 13th, the 2009 remake. But I know him from the movie Predators, where that was something of a different take. Where you take, I don't know if you have you seen it by any chance?
Is that the one that came out in like 2018?
Yeah, where Brody is in it. There's a bunch of different other characters.
No, I didn't watch the newest one. No.
Yeah, this wasn't Predators. This wasn't Predator v Aliens. This was Predators, where they, instead of the Predators coming to Earth, the premise of that film is Topher Grace is in it. They take humans who are prolific at killing in various fields of what they do, whether they're soldiers, assassins, murderers. Like, they take these different humans and bring them to a planet to hunt them. So it's a very, very fun and cool premise.
Yeah.
It's a great action movie. There's not a lot of plot. There's just a fun hunt, and you see who's going to survive, who's going to make it out.
Seems pretty appropriate for a movie like that.
Yeah, it's like a video game, really. So it's enjoyable.
Who are you?
I was supposed to be executed 2 days ago.
And I was in combat. So was I.
Black Ops.
This planet is a game preserve. We're the game.
One of those films you could kind of take bets on. All right, who's going to go first? Who's going to survive? Like, what's it going to be? But it's very cool, and I loved it. But Derek Mears played one of the predators that's on the planet there, and it's on point. You can see it. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Nice.
I didn't. I got a familiar sound coming here. Hold on 1 second. This is the. That's the bottle. That's right. Recording. This is a late one, folks. We're way after midnight here on East Coast time. But this is a bit of Eagle Rare that last time I was in New York, I got a big bottle of. If the building saw me drinking this is a double, a 1.75. This is a liter bottle. So if the where I'm recording now, if any of the guards or neighbors in my building saw me, they would think I have a problem. So I just figured it's my my birthday's coming up next week, and we're recording a Halloween Swamp Thing podcast. So I said, fuck it, let's break open the Eagle Rare.
Gotta live a little.
Gotta live, exactly. But Derek Mears plays he plays Swamp Thing, and he's huge. You're absolutely right. It stays true to what the comic looks like, and it's not bad. It's not cheesy. It doesn't look like weird. He looks like it, dude. He looks like a character that's coming out of the swamp. He looks like a combination of like the imagery that we've all seen of Sasquatch, maybe, but like he's it's as if the actor went into the swamp and like lived there for weeks. Like, all right, we're gonna shoot. Like, somebody find Derek. Where is he?
Yeah,
he comes back
and they
out.
also incorporate like this sort of body language. I don't even know what you'd call it, but sort of like the turn away from the camera and then like bring your head like slightly down, like dramatically, to show how like tortured you are on the inside.
I know that from the Predator movie. That is him. The actor is doing that. Like, he lived in that role, and that is. I'm telling you, I love. I know. I'm so happy you said that. He does that. He does it well.
Yeah, it's crazy how much acting you can do with like that massive, piece of costume on you.
Of course. Acting is, listen, how much of it is nonverbal? I mean, you guys know from when when I acted in your student films, there's nothing, there's no script at the beginning, right? When you guys are doing it all. And actually, every one of your student films, there's no script. Why? Because you're learning how to make a story without any of that. You want the people to see, and that's what so many really good actors do.
Yeah.
So I love it.
100%.
Yeah. Another interesting. I just want to touch upon one thing. What you said at the beginning. I knew that this show was something different when they weren't just. It's the CDC thing, the plants, virus. Like, that's in the first episode. You see like children afflicted. You see bodies, but you didn't just see bodies that were stricken with some kind of unknown pathogen or virus. I was going to get to that when I was mentioning all the cop shows that I love and stuff. Is it reminded me of True Detective, where True Detective was super creepy and dark and creates this world that is unknown, and like every corner is new mystery and opening up a puzzle of something darker that's even darker than the last thing you just learned about. And you're like, what the fuck? I don't want to go further. This is bad. I want to leave. But these are the cops. They got to figure it out. Of course, it's McConaughey and Harrelson doing a great job. But this show reminded me of that, because you're in the middle of nowhere in this swamp, and then and when they showed the bodies, they weren't just bodies where like you said, it wasn't these weren't people that were vomiting or bleeding from their eyes. Like, it wasn't. I haven't ever Googled pictures of what Ebola might do to a body, but these were like trees and branches growing out of like the bodies, and the bodies were like contorted into weird ways. That's why I was like, holy shit, this is a fucking horror show.
Yeah.
This is not what I expected. Hold on a second. You know?
Yeah, it hits you right off the bat.
Yeah, it was the first episode. That's why I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. This is cool. But I wanted to stick with it. It didn't scare me like that much, you know. But I was like, oh, whoa. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty impressive, impression that it left, and I do have some thoughts on the direction that it ended up taking, but before I get to that part, I want to circle back around to the cast, and as another positive, there were a lot of actors and I guess characters that I thought were really cool to see on screen. Like, even though he didn't get a lot of screen time, I thought Alec was pretty cool to see.
Definitely.
When we did get to see him.
Right.
Avery, I actually liked Avery a bit as the sort of like very classically villainous
Absolutely.
sort of role.
Yep.
Very sort of in control, boss of this whole town, with that southern drawl.
Exactly. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of familiar with it a little bit, aren't you? I don't know if you grew up near a swamp, but it's not like where I grew up in Raleigh. I don't remember swamps too much. There were creeks and like woods, but I'm assuming I don't even know if I've been in an actual swamp, like to come to think of it.
Yeah, I've been fishing in a swamp once before with my grandfather, and I didn't live close to one, but
okay.
But I've been by. So like, if you're going from Baton Rouge to New Orleans, you do pass through a lot of swampland.
That's cool.
As you're getting closer to the coast, but yeah, like one thing that I loved about the production design is that like so many locations are kind of like this very sort of like shack on the water kind of architecture.
Yep.
So like just completely made of wood, just on the edge of like some sort of water, like just very sort of like they leaned very heavy into the swamp motif for so much of the production design.
Sure.
And I thought that was like pretty funny, because like I'm just wondering like how many people would actually want to like go to a bar that's just like this like watery tool shed that they have on the swamp there.
It looks like a giant treehouse. It looks like an awesome, fun, hipstery giant treehouse.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
that was Delroy's Roadhouse. That's what that was. Owned by Avery Sunderland, of course.
Yeah. There was that, like Alec's lab was like that.
Yep.
There was like the first house that they investigate looked like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Alec's house is in the middle of the swamp too. Well, apparently that's from what I understand, where it all started. One of the iterations of Swamp Thing was where him and his wife, Alec and his wife, are married, and they're discovering a specific they're scientists, but I think they're experimenting with crops, and they're on to the prospect of like growth where they're going to solve world hunger. And then I believe some agents are involved, federal agents trying to protect them. So they are in the middle of a swamp, like for that, in part for that purpose, and no one can get to it, and that's why you've got this house. Reminiscent of the movie Gorillas in the Mist in that respect, where you've got what is it? I forgot I think Sean Connery is the doctor, if I remember correctly. But yeah, he's in the middle. Like you have those things where you've got these resources that are impossible to find, Wakandan, if you will, in the middle of a jungle. Like it's impossible to get to.
Yeah.
Part of those stilts, by the way, is just I don't know how the swamp is. I can imagine from Hurricane Katrina, but I remember from having a beach house when I grew up in North Carolina, and my parents had that, and all the houses are on stilts because they've got to be above the water. So I'm assuming that, I don't know if you'd want that's where you'd want to build a bar, but that bar, yeah, it wasn't just. I love that too, not just that it makes everything look even creepier, but it's like. There was a charm to it all, but even those like they could have taken it, where the place, Delroy's Cafe or something in the middle of town. You drive into town and you see this pretty town that's not too far from the swamp, but they're like, no, fuck it, everything is on the swamp. Everything is there. You go to have a beer, you go to have after a rough day of seeing fucking green twiggy tree bodies and all this shit, and then, like, let's go have a drink in the middle of the swamp as well.
Yep, that's what we do in Louisiana.
Well, right. It was awesome. Yeah, it was like, and that was for me. That's also part of the horror of it. Is like almost every moment, it felt like a horror movie because almost every moment something like that is going to happen. Someone's watching out the window. Swamp Thing's out there.
Yeah. He's literally watching watching his girl have a dance with that dude. Like
yeah.
Right there.
That's right.
Yeah, like just so much. Like I don't know if you've seen that movie, Princess and the Frog. The
I have not.
Movie.
No.
But basically.
The frog is a swamp thing that's trying to murder people too. That's
No, it's more more like so pretty much they made it so that story was retold in like a New Orleans sort of like swamp setting between the French Quarters and the swamp, and then so the princess, she's like living in New Orleans and the witch changes her, and then she's a frog and she has to like go through the swamp and like round up all these like swamp buddies and like make her way back so that the voodoo man can like change her back or something like that.
And that's a kid's movie?
It is, yeah. It's a Disney
wow,
movie.
All right. I'll watch
Disney
it.
princess movie, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, so pretty much, they spend a lot of time in this like sort of on the swamp, sort of tool shed house locations, to the point, and they even have like the old blind psychic, in there as well. Like,
oh wow.
We're so glad we found you, Mama Odie. Ray and Lewis here have been telling us all about you. We've been traveling quite a long way, and you can't imagine what we've been through. And we
literally the same character.
Madame Xanadu.
It's like old, like blind, like black psychic lady who can like talk to ghosts or whatever. Like that's the other thing that watching this reminded me of was that movie. It's pretty fun. The only thing that was missing was the songs. That's the only thing that was missing.
All right. Oh, by the way, the music. Oh, that is gripping. Their score in this is awesome. Awesome. Right from the beginning, like the opening sequence.
Oh yeah, I love that a lot.
What was that?
Yeah, I said I love that a lot. Like it really like I would listen to it like I wouldn't skip it. I would listen to it every time.
Oh my god. It's so dramatic. It's very cool.
Yeah, extremely. And then I guess the last character that I'll bring up before moving on is Woodrue. the scientists that Avery brings in to help him with his project that he's working on.
Right.
And
Doctor, yeah.
Yes, yeah, Dr. Woodrue. And yeah, I just thought, I mean, Kevin Durand, man, like he was out there doing his thing. Like, out of all the characters, because with the majority of the characters that are in the show, they have like this very sort of like CW sort of feel to them. So there is sort of like a soap opera-ish vibe that goes in the non-horror scenes, or I guess like the action scenes. So in their daily lives, it's sort of very much like this CW, I guess, Young and the Restless sort of.
Yeah, it's soap opera-y, of course. It's got that cheesy drama a little bit.
Yeah, I mean that's why it's on the CW website right now. That's
it's cheesy drama, but the people are dying. I mean, they're either getting killed, they're getting shot, they're yeah. I mean, there's the prospect of getting killed by the swamp. So. Yeah.
But out of all the characters, I would say that Woodrue is the only one who felt like a comic book character to me. You know what I mean? Because he was like sort of very over the top in his mad scientist.
Oh, it's so creepy.
You know, even in like the regular, even like in his regular daily life, like you're like, yeah, this dude's up to something.
He's a serial killer in like an epidemiologist body, basically.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not Kevin's first time even playing a comic book character. He was in, I don't know if you remember this, but he played the Blob in the X-Men movies.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out, Logan.
Listen, I ain't leaving here till you tell me where Victor is. Come on, Bob, for old time's sake, huh?
Did you just call me Blob?
No, but...
Or one X-Men movie, I should say.
Oh my God, you're right.
Yep, that's him. Wolverine
cool.
Origins.
Oh wow, old school. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yep.
He
knows the way.
I gotta give it to him, by the way. That guy's got range. He can do anything. That character. If I remember, I think he was in Real Steel. Did you see that with Hugh Jack?
No, I didn't watch that one. No.
Oh my God, it's not a superhero movie, but it's a fantastic sci-fi movie that can be watched with kids. And he plays a villain in the film, if I remember correctly. Oh shit, no, wrong thing. I'm looking at it, of course. But yeah, no, it's he's the dude's got range. He can really do anything. To see him go from a villain to even the Blob. I mean, the Blob's a villain. He's just the giant fat douchebag, basically, right? But to go to this creepy place where, I mean, you're right. It is over the top, and it is every single thing that he does is mildly to over the top creepy.
Yeah.
So, pouring a glass of whiskey or handle or feeding his wife like while she's sick. It's super. It's just man, it's weird.
Yeah,
it's weird. He's weird.
He went all the way, and especially with how the season ends.
Yes.
You know it, and you know him having like the full costume on of Floronic Man is like.
That's the character, Floronic Man. I didn't know that. I was wondering. I started to poke around a little bit.
Oh yeah, he's like the anti-Swamp Thing, pretty much. Yeah,
that's great.
Like
yeah.
What is that movie? I forget what it's called, but it's the one where like I think it's Harley Quinn and someone. I think. Harley Quinn, Floronic Man, and maybe Poison Ivy. I forget who exactly is in the cast, but they team up, and I think like Batman and like Swamp Thing are like trying to stop them. I forget which movie that is, but that's like one of the DC animateds, and he shows up there.
Gotcha.
As well. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And yeah, even in the comics, he looks even scarier than that. Like if you look up sort of like the the main iteration of Floronic Man. He looks pretty scary.
Oh my God! I'm totally forgetting something. He's the giant, crazy maniac assassin with one of the brothers in Smoking Aces. That's right. The guy can do anything. I fucking love that guy.
Nice.
We gotta get rid of certain people. I scared you. Gotta get rid of them, and then the world's a better place. Sure.
You know what I'm talking about? Have you seen it?
I have, yeah.
Oh, but yeah, he's one of those. He's one. I forgot what the name of those brothers, like the Jeeves Tremor, the Tremor brothers, I guess is what they are.
Yeah. It's
and he doesn't say anything in that movie.
Yeah.
That's cool. Kevin Durant, not Kevin Durant, the basketball player. Kevin Durant.
Yeah, different Kevin. Yeah.
This actor is amazing, and I mean, by the way, I don't want him to be. I mean, I would have missed. I think I would have. Yeah, I would have missed the creepy Dr. Woodrue had the season or had the series continued, and it would have become. And if he would have become Floronic Man, then I would have been annoyed about that. I'll be honest, because yeah, his creepiness was really second to none in all of this show.
What I will say is that, I mean, I guess I can expand on this later, but I would have actually rathered that he turn into Floronic Man earlier, and then he be like the final confrontation, as opposed to the researcher dudes. It's like hired guns, because I do think that the climax, that episode was pretty lackluster, because there's not really so much tension there, because obviously Swamp Thing is gonna like wipe the floor with them, obviously.
Sure.
Like he's like, and they didn't even bring the ice or like the special lights to help them. They just brought guns, so like obviously he's gonna win. Like,
whoa, time out.
Even really fight.
They didn't just bring special guns. They brought one special gun. They brought Jake Busey. I don't know if you know Jake Busey. I love Jake Busey.
Oh yeah, he was like the main guy, right?
He was the main lead, big bad, hired mercenary character.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yep, he was the main guy in sunglasses, and I couldn't tell at first. And then he takes his sunglasses off at one point, and he's like, Romero, and I'm like, holy shit, it's Jake,
I could tell
that's
by
Jake
his
Busey.
jawline.
Yes, it's very distinctive. Yes.
Yeah.
But I wanted to. But Woodrue he does such a good job, that character, and yeah, it's over the top. But I was like, it was inspirational. Like I wanted to. Oh, Etienne, my friend, I wouldn't have this glass of Eagle Rare without you, without its regenerative abilities. You would be remiss. Like anything. He was just great. Loved that guy.
Yeah, he's pretty great. Definitely, definitely a highlight. And so I think with that, I think I can start to get into the negatives that I had with the show.
Okay. I have to give. All right, go ahead. Ian Ziering. I don't want to not miss him, but because I did actually Ian Ziering. I never know how to pronounce Sharknado guy, but and Beverly Hills 90210. But yeah, he was a plus for me. But yeah, go ahead. Just to throw him in. So.
Is he the guy who played Cassidy?
He played Cassidy, i.e. Blue Devil, right?
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, I was sure I remembered his face from somewhere. I'm guessing it's Sharknado that I remembered him from.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that gives me some ease.
He may have listened. He may have been in your con column. It's so don't be mad at me for that. So.
No. Well, he is, but not for that reason.
Okay.
For a slightly different reason.
Gotcha.
The actor was fine. It was just other stuff. So I'll get into that.
Sure.
So yes, the negatives of Swamp Thing I had are a good few. And one thing I'll start with is sort of the unnecessary story points that they throw in here.
Okay.
So aside from like the main plot, like having to do with Swamp Thing, in the show, there's also like just all these different subplots that are going on that felt like really weird. So there was like this whole like supernatural plot that was going on the side that had like nothing to do with Swamp Thing really, or they like tried to connect it, but it didn't really connect. So yeah, all the stuff with like the little girl and like you know, the mom like with the sister's ghost and like the
Avery Sunderland's wife and her dead daughter, and her being best friends with Arcane. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that stuff, and then you know, Madame Xanadu, the medium. You know, like I still don't know what her deal was. And yeah, with Cassidy, it's not that I didn't like him, but it was more that like he didn't fit anywhere in there.
Right.
So it's like they just randomly throw in his like deal with the devil or whatever. I don't know what that was. And then yeah, he becomes like the Blue Devil and then does his thing and then just vanishes. Apparently I'm assuming he was going to be in another show like Legends of Tomorrow or whatever, but yeah, it just felt like there were two shows going on at the same time, and they did not match up, and so yeah, it just felt like there was a lot of time that was wasted where it could have been devoted to like the main plot with like Swamp Thing, like the virus, like that stuff. And gotcha. I know that Swamp Thing in the comics and like some other media does deal with supernatural things, but I felt like just as a starting point, it would have been better for them to stick to more the sci-fi route with this, and then maybe and like if they got like a later season or iteration, then start to introduce some of the supernatural stuff in there.
I understand that. I do. And I'm actually I in part I do agree with it because I do like the sci-fi stuff. I like the CDC stuff. It was all very real, even with the creepiness of Swamp Thing, and the he wasn't even
different
creepy.
After this pandemic too.
I mean, he was. It's really like it's kind of like it's a small window of what now we know what COVID is, right? But before that, you couldn't imagine that the whole world is all of a sudden going to change because of something like this that happens in this town, where a few bodies all of a sudden, like there's people die, and there's a child who has the virus initially. But then she can talk to the swamp. That was interesting. I liked that at the beginning. It was like the first few episodes, that child. She knew of him and she wanted to like help him. But it's all very real. And it's also interesting to see how now we know what this would actually look like. Because God forbid COVID 25 hits, COVID 35, whatever the hell, COVID something, zombies, right? Everybody is in the suits, whereas the suits, the masks, like this show, I loved it when Woodrue. By the way, that scene when Woodrue is opening up Swamp Thing was fucking insanely creepy. Yeah. I was like, holy shit, this is weird and gross, and he's like a plant, but you're like, you didn't know that at first. You're like, oh, he's pulling out his heart, he's pulling out his lungs. He's like, not wearing a mask in that.
Everything.
Yeah, right. but he's not wearing a mask in that autopsy, whatever that is. Like, he's not even have that on. Like, come on, man.
He's got like the little face guard.
He's just got the visor at one point. But yeah, now we know that what this looks like. Everybody is in the freaking full hazmat suits, basically. It's not. We're not talking just the masks here now. Like now we know what this would actually look like, and it would look bad. It wouldn't play as well on TV if you saw every single character and all you saw was their eyes basically through the visors. It would not be the same. But I agree with you that those plot lines were tangential and happening like they were simultaneous and not connecting. I agree. It didn't connect well enough. I think if they had another season to do so, or probably 2 seasons really to make it, in other words, a total of 3, to make those connections. But what I do enjoy of Swamp Thing, and I agree with you, it's down to earth and sci-fi, and but it's also like science fact, right? With just some of the stuff that is happening and what plants can do, and there's things that we know of that healing powers and the like. The modern medicine comes from so many of these plants and specific items that you find in the forest and this and that. But I've always liked what DC does with the what do you call it? The dark side, the Hellboy, the not the cosmic. What am I talking about? Doctor Strange, the mystic arts, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Constantine is kind of a staple of the comic book fantasy, like supernatural genre. Like,
absolutely, he's got a following. And he's the one actor, Matt Ryan, who's played the character in the cartoons and the movies and the TV show. I don't know if he played in the movie, but he did play in an animated film, but he was in the TV show, and he wanted to be in this too. Like he always wants to do it.
Swamp Thing, I know you're seeing this. Get out here or the posies get it.
John Constantine.
And I love DC does such a good job with the mystic element, with Constantine, with Zatanna, with Dr. Fate. I know we've talked about this. You think he's a dick. I love the guy. I love that character, but it's they make it. They do a DC as a world does such a good job, or as a universe with their characters and making their characters accept that there's this mystic thing that's happening, and we don't know how to deal with it. It's similar to Iron Man and Doctor Strange, but it's not the same because Batman just doesn't even know what to do. He just accepts it. And he knows he has to rely on them sometimes. That's the whole point of Justice League Dark. I mean, what I think there's the prospect of, I believe Abrams is making a Justice League Dark show for HBO Max. So I don't, I hope that's coming, and I hope Swamp Thing's going to feature into it. And he's not. Swamp Thing is like the from what I understand, he's the reluctant member of the group because he also is distrusting of that whole element. But
right.
But yeah, it's hard to not want to see those things in the storyline when you have. I mean, look at this. The series got canceled. What do you do? You know, like they maybe if they made it more focused on the character and Murray and what's happening in this town, and less so with these other peripheral storylines, they might have gotten somewhere. But I don't know. You know, like you just throw everything at the wall, and that's why I enjoyed it. I wanted to see more of them. So I liked Blue Devil. Actually, I agree. Weird, but I did. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I could have even come to like it if it was just integrated somehow, like the sci-fi and the supernatural elements. But there's just so much of it that they don't bother integrating that's the point that makes it it makes it feel like it's taking away from something else. So for example, like with the little girl Susie Coyle, it's like, do they explain why she has a connection with Swamp Thing and like why she can like feel him?
Doesn't finish. No, it's true.
Yeah, and then like after the whole thing with like her getting possessed, she just vanishes from the show as well.
Right.
Which is another thing. Like they have this thing where characters just vanish after the plot doesn't need them anymore. So
yeah.
They were they introduced like Liz's girlfriend. She vanished in like 2 episodes, never heard from her again, which is weird because Liz had like a lot of like very traumatic stuff going on, and her girlfriend was nowhere to be found. So that was very strange. And then Abby's friend Harlan, like he's part of the plot for like a little while, and then disappears until like almost the end. And then, yeah, some dudes just drag him into a van and you never hear from him again.
That's right. Yeah, he comes back. He comes back heavy, and I'm like, all right, this is it. He's going to be the guy. I'm thinking they're going to, if they haven't hooked up, this is his moment. He's been waiting.
That was the other thing. They didn't.
Yep.
So, like, he got friend zoned so hard that it was just like, come on.
You wanted to see Harlan and Abby hook up, huh? All right.
I mean, they were just, because they had like the wine in their hand and like they were talking, and then he goes in for a hug and then like calls it a night.
You're preaching to the choir. You know me on this, man. I hate that. I agree. But at the same time, I think
normally I don't care, but it's like when you're going that deep into it, like just do the scene. Like don't pull out halfway.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I tend to agree with you almost every time on this. You know that. Except for the fact that Harlan was the classic friend zone friend.
What the hell's the friend zone? See, when a girl decides that you're her friend, you're no longer a dating option. You become a complete non-sexual entity in her eyes, like her brother or a lamp. I don't want to be a lamp.
So, like, he was the guy. That was his moment. That was his chance. Something could have happened. I think he could have gone in for a kiss, and a kiss would have happened, and then she would have felt bad because she's in love with Swamp Thing. So, and it would have been that moment. And actually, I will say, that would have made it better, actually, because if that happened, and then he gets friend-zoned even harder than he did, and he leaves, I agree. He brings over pizza. He brings over the wine. He's expecting. He's hoping. Maybe he's or just trying to be there for his friend. But one thing leads to another. That's how life works in these moments or in TV shows. But in that moment, that didn't happen. And then he gets taken outside. You're right. He gets taken in the van. I really, really loved how they did that, because if you think about it, she's on the third floor of her apartment or whatever that is. Where it's not in the town. I don't know where. I forgot. Is it Atlanta? Maybe I don't know where she goes back to. Wherever the CDC is.
Yeah, I believe it's Atlanta.
Yeah, so she goes back to work at CDC headquarters or wherever that was in this place in Atlanta, and she's on the second or third floor of her apartment building, and it's like not a giant apartment, it looks like not a giant building, that is, maybe a few floors, 6 floors, something like that, but 4 floors. But she's up high enough. And there's it's kind of raining. Was it raining outside? I remember it being dark. The whole fucking show is dark. There's no sunlight in this show as well. if there's sunlight, it's beaming creepily through the woods. So just to add more effect. It's very DC animated in that respect. But in that moment, it's either raining or it's dark, and it's like 2. He says it's 1 a.m. He's like, when Harlan leaves her her apartment, those guys, jack him at that point. But the way the camera plays, she doesn't have the shades closed at all. There's no shades. There's no blinds drawn. The windows are wide open. And the camera pans up, and you see him getting jacked and then thrown into this van with these characters. The van speeds off, and she's just looking. You see her face. I loved it. I absolutely loved that shot. I was so impressed. I'm like, why? It only came to me now that her blinds were not drawn. Like, like at 1 a.m, she's got the windows wide open. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, just sitting there. And he's like, help. And she's like, my good platonic friend Harlan.
Drinking some wine, exactly. Yeah. Yet another friend zone feature, by the way. If if you're at your date's house or apartment and all the windows are wide open, something's probably not going to happen. Yeah,
it's a little deterrent.
Yeah. Unless there's something else in mind, but. Yeah, but you're right. 9 out of 10 times I'm on board with you, but in that situation, she's in love with Swamp Thing and she's going to back out. But yeah, something should have happened. And it was pre-COVID. Yeah. It was all filmed. This was years ago that this was filmed. So there was no issues of nobody needed to get COVID tested.
Yeah, big time. So that was definitely like the first thing that stood out to me was just, the focus wasn't there. And I would have liked if they focused a lot more on like the virus plot line, because, you know, as we said, that was sort of like the hook that, you know, caught us from episode 1 and seeing like all this really cool, you know, horror imagery, and that was what was making it scary. But even in terms of that, like in terms of like the threat, they abandoned that as well partway through. So because like Abby basically like cures it, like she solves it like halfway through the show, and you're like, oh, so I guess it wasn't that big of a deal then. And so so she solves it, and that virus is done, and then they introduce like a different virus, like the one that the guy brings back from the swamp that makes you like see things. He brings back like the scarecrow virus, that's not really that deadly because like 3 people get it and they all survive. Only one dude dies from it, and it's because of like blood loss from like an injury. So and also, you know, it just wasn't, you know, horror. Like there was no horror element to that. It was just, you know, making these characters kind of trip for a minute, and they're fine immediately after. Right. So just really like downgrading the stakes and, you know, the horror element. I felt that also, you know, was a negative for me, because, you know, I was looking forward to seeing like how far they would like go with this virus. Like, would people start like, you know, coming back to life, and like would it turn into a zombie situation? Like what would it turn into? And it's nothing. Didn't turn into anything.
You got to give it a chance, man. They got to keep going with the seasons.
I mean, but that's like she fixed it. That was the thing. Is like she cured it, and she's like, "Hey, everybody, just do this thing, and it's cured." And everyone was like, "Yay, it's cured."
But
like
it wasn't.
Even at the CDC, they're like, "Yeah, there's no more problems in Murray. You can come back now."
You know what? By the way, I actually enjoyed that. I did enjoy that episode because, you have 2 things that are happening. One, you have characters actually having to go back to work. I was excited about that in that scene because she goes back, there's a new director, and the CDC director is like, "You've been gone for days on end. What do you like? You think your job is okay?" Like, no, we have to have a meeting. like, you're screwed. Yeah. What do you like? I don't care what position you hold here. This is a job. You got to work.
You didn't contact anybody.
Yeah, right. And it also like put a time limit to like what was happening. Like, this is like now weeks of. I was thinking, like, I don't know, she's in Murray for weeks or a month. I don't know what this is. She's seeing family, reconnecting. Is she calling in, taking vacation time? Like, oh wow, this brings it back to like, this is not just a TV show. It's like life. It's cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're supposed to send like daily reports and stuff.
She said that. Yes. You're not even sending the daily reports. But then Harlan brings over the pizza, and I love it when the characters in my TV shows or a movie actually eat, because it's human. I want to see that. And I was very keen to see if she ate any of the pizza. She did not. She just drank. And all of the characters in this show drink. Every single one of them are drinking whiskey. They're having every moment in the precinct, in the office, like in every office,
when
every
you're in the
moment.
South, what else is there to do?
That's right. At Delroy's on Delroy's Roadhouse, at Avery, every chance he gets, he walks into a house. He walks right into one guy's house. He's been shot. He's almost dead. He walks in and he has a drink.
It's the first thing he does.
Yeah, exactly. Like in the middle, he doesn't say hi to the guy's wife, to Woodrow's wife. He's like that's it.
Yeah, he's been like out, you know, in the
swamp for days.
Like just tripping in the swamp for like 2 days, dehydrated, tired, like injured. It's like,
that's right.
Let me get this booze going.
That's all you need. That's really what you come back for. You need to hydrate and drink.
Man.
What do you expect? The guy owns the town. He probably has his own distillery, I'd imagine. Avery, the Sunderland Bourbon.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised at all. It's the best bourbon south of the Mississippi.
So just to bring it back here to the horror, right? And I understand. I am sympathetic to what you're saying here, that it wasn't. They could have gotten more real with the virus, and with all of what the virus is doing to this town and to the people, and should there have been vaccine coming at some point. But again, is it not? It's not a virus, right? We know it's the plants, and we know it's the swamp. We know it's something completely different now. Like if the mystic element that Constantine deals with is one thing in the DC universe, the swamp is a totally different thing that we know that Poison Ivy and Swamp Thing are into, right? And now you got Floronic Man, and you got these other characters that are going to come into it. I don't know if Blue Devil plays into it, but the horror element, I just want to tell you, like, starting with those characters who are contorted, those bodies that are contorted into weird positions where the trees are growing through them, like fucking weird shit. The way people die in this show was a completely different, something I wasn't used to on for in my superhero TV, if you will, because there weren't just people that were killed. 3 to 4 bodies, by my count, were tied to the canopy of the forest, like of the swamp, like Predator style. Like, it was awesome, like that was clearly. Swamp Thing didn't know he was doing it. The swamp was doing it at one point without him, but these bodies or these dudes come into the swamp. They're looking for him. They're trying to hide shit. The swamp is just they're dumping ground, and then they look up and there's a body dripping blood with twigs and other shit. Another character, I think it was shown a couple times, is impaled by the branches in a boat, and then launched up stories high. You have the live autopsy moment with Swamp Thing where his plant heart and lungs are being pulled out. That was creepy because at first you didn't know what it was. You didn't know, and then he's like, yet again, Woodrow's creepiness comes through. Like, it's made to look like a heart, but it's not a heart. This is
a crude plant.
And one of, what was that?
It's like a crude plant approximation.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, the script the script and him really bring it to life. Bring that character to life. When he says in that point too, he says, he's like, you're not a man. You're a plant who thinks he's a man. Another moment that I was like, holy shit, I'm watching a horror TV show. You mentioned the hallucinations. That was the second physiological affect that seems to be happening now to people. So first you have the CDC, the green disease that's happening right off the bat in the first few episodes. That goes away or it gets retracted or whatever happens to it. Then you've got these hallucinations that are happening to Avery, that are happening to his wife, I think it's a separate thing. I'm not sure. That then they start happening.
Yeah, with the wife is just all ghost stuff.
Yeah, it's mystical. You're right.
Ghost stuff. Yeah.
But with Avery, that moment when he goes through the woods, and then he has that relapse scene where he starts seeing his dad bringing him back to when they're hiding a body, and he's got to chop down the tree, and then the tree sucks him into the fire, like. Am I remembering that correctly? Like it looks like he's chopping down a tree with the intent to hide a body in there or something of that effect.
Yeah.
And he's got a fire going.
He was chopping down a mystical tree.
Right.
That apparently was mystical. He said it. I don't know anything about that tree, but the swamp didn't like that, and it killed his dad.
Yeah, so the swamp pulls him in it's very similar to Legend of Sleepy Hollow, the Johnny Depp movie. I love that movie, actually. Sleepy Hollow is what it's called. I watch it every Halloween.
Murder needs no ghost to come from the grave. The assassin is a man of flesh and blood, and I will discover him.
Watch it. It's just as creepy. It's similar detective story. It's very cool. If you're into, and I watch it every Halloween. Nice. And it gets progressively creepier and more sci-fi mystical. Obviously you've got and Christopher Walken playing the killer. It's great. But similar story where this tree is eating bodies, taking people. But that happens in that scene. The tree pulls his father but it doesn't just pull him into the tree. Pulls him into the fire, and then holds him in the fire. And then, so I counted. There was 3 different moments where they film. They're not just showing a young Avery. There's now at this point he's older because he's reliving the moment, but he's watching his dad being pulled into this flame. There's a little fire with some logs. You got some pieces of wood there, but he's straight up pulled into it. Not 1, not 2, 3 times. You watch him burning, and it straight up goes to like full Darth Vader. Like it didn't, and it didn't just cut to Avery like watching in horror and crying. It cuts to Avery, cuts back. Cuts to Avery, cuts back. Cuts to Avery. One more time. There, you see the dude's face burn. I'm like, holy shit, this guy's being burned alive. I'm like, this is not what I expected.
Yeah. They went all the way with it.
Yeah. So the
practical effects, like I said, on point.
Outstanding. Really, really outstanding stuff. Yeah. It makes me, that was making me think of like, all right, how far would I go? A, if I'm writing a guy being burned alive in a movie or in a TV show, like A, how would I write that? And B, would I show that much of it? I don't know. Like there's a line where I'd want it to not be so horror-y, I think, if I'm making a movie like that. So.
Yeah. Well, one thing also I will say to like sort of counterbalance that is the CGI effects in the show were pretty awkward at times.
Okay,
so
yeah.
There were a lot of like CG effects, be it like the vines like sort of moving around, or like the scene where Avery is like hallucinating and then he finds the police chief.
Yep.
She turns around and then there's this very sort of like early 2000s sort of CG effect on her face.
It is a cheesy, yes. It is meant to be cheesy, but at the same time, think about it, he's hallucinating it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it just felt like very sort of like Premiere Pro drag and drop kind of like special effects, as opposed to everything else that they had going on. So that was like one thing that stood out to me, is that while the practical effects were really good, some of the CG effects weren't as well put together, I guess I should say.
Sure. Yeah, and this is where I forgive them. It's DC Universe. They're not the MCU, buddy.
Yeah, I mean it's the CW in general, they're not huge on doing CG effects. Like they only do it when they have to. So like for example, if you look at Titans, like they hold off until they absolutely have to.
Sure.
Like they're like they're very sparing with letting Beast Boy turn into a tiger.
Right.
Of course. They're like, yeah, every time you transform, dude, that costs money, so they count. Yeah, freaking Trigon, not even allowed to be a demon. Like
that's right. We talked about that. Yeah, he's basically you called him like a dad costume. Is what he's wearing.
Yeah.
He's wearing a sweater and a vest, basically.
Yep. So yeah, that's to be expected with these sort of shows, and even with the Marvel Netflix stuff. Like honestly, I'll say a lot of them didn't rely on special effects. Like a lot of them were very like grounded and down to earth, but the times where they did have special effects, like at times it was kind of wonky.
Yeah.
Like the one where like Daredevil jumps out of like the hospital window, and you can kind of you don't see the wires, but like his descent looks very like wire bound.
Sure.
Like that kind of thing. But yeah, so that was just like another thing that just sort of stood out to me on the whole.
We never did a Daredevil podcast, right? You and I?
No, we didn't. No. Did you finish watching it?
No.
That was the thing. Did you? Because I think you watched season 1 only, right?
Season 1 and 2. I saw season 1 and 2, and to this day, after everything that has come out since COVID, I still maintain that is the Daredevil and Punisher arc, which we have to get to it. That is some of the best television I've ever seen. I think it's the best. I think it's the best superhero television I've ever seen. Yeah, I'm gonna say that. The Daredevil, the Daredevil and Punisher, that part.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. That's really great. Season 3 definitely steps it up as well.
Yeah.
And because my problem with season 2, just a little tangent. My problem with season 2 was, again, sort of like the focus thing. So they introduced like the whole like magic ninjas plot in there, and it felt less compelling than the like the Punisher stuff.
Got it. Sure.
Yeah, but
it's like the
aside
foot.
from
It's like
that,
it's like the Foot Clan. It's like watching Ninja Turtles and the Foot Clan. I imagine. Yeah, I felt like that
100%.
actually. Yeah. But at the same time,
and they're,
you
like, fighting,
inspired.
and then the Punisher just shows up and starts shooting ninjas. He's like, "Well, see ya."
Right. Yeah. At the same time, you've inspired me with that show because you watched that show. You made me watch. I got into it after you introduced me to that show, and then we made a film because we were inspired by that show. We want the point, the episodes, the stuff that we're working on now. Hopefully, will look pretty good in comparison.
Yeah. It's pretty iconic. But yeah, definitely check out season 3 because the storyline with Bullseye, top notch.
Awesome.
Daredevil settling things with Kingpin. Awesome. There's another like the fight scene, so one-upping all the season 1 and like season 2 sort of like one take long fight scenes, like they one-up the hell out of that in season 3. So that's pretty great. And also just check out the Punisher show. It's good stuff.
Yeah, no, I started it. Yeah. So there's a lot to get to, but yeah, we'll get there. But we're jumping to Marvel here. But while we're in
and Micro, definitely another.
While we're in the DC universe, we will get to Doom Patrol soon, and we've also got. Speaking of Porter, my friend Tony got into the Titans TV show, and we got to get back to it. We need to finish because we've podcasted about season 1, if I remember correctly. I don't think we got further than season 1. We got the Trigon, which was the end of 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So
or I guess the beginning of 2, technically, but yeah.
Yeah. We started talk right. So Titans has gotten a little further and has gotten some buzz. So there's this. He's not the only person now that I know who's come to me and said, "Hey, have you seen Titans?" And I'm like, why the fuck are you watching Titans? So it's one thing when someone comes to you and says, yo, that, what happened there in Spider-Man Homecoming, like, all right, I know you watched Spider-Man Homecoming, I know you watched Iron Man and everything else, but when someone says Titans, you're like, whoa, you're watching HBO Max? That's cool. Okay, tell me more. Let's get into this. So...
Yeah. Like I have an older friend who's not really into comic books like at all.
Right.
But yeah, was totally watching Titans, like to the point where he didn't know that like Gar's code name is Beast Boy. Like he didn't know that. Like I said,
and it's funny because
who is that?
Yeah, you and I go back to Titans from the beginning, from the cartoons.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like so that was pretty interesting. Is that like people are getting into this.
Good.
So yeah, there's a lot to cover there. So with Swamp Thing, I think I covered all my major points with the series. And yeah, like I said, there's like just so much stuff that I wanted to see more of here that I think got a little like watered down on the way. Swamp Thing definitely did not get enough screen time, in my opinion.
You wanted more of the actual Swamp Thing. Okay.
The show is called Swamp Thing, so you'd expect. But yeah, he not only is he not the main character.
You want to see him like growing asparagus, like in the forest, that sort of thing. You want the full
just like
you want some irrigation happening. You want that's cool.
Honestly, like I would take that over the like ghost stuff. I think I would, because not only is he not the main character, so they're giving that over to Abby, but you really get maybe 5 minutes or like even a minute of Swamp Thing per episode. A lot of the time.
No, that's not true. Come on, in the last few episodes, there was more. No, he features
few episodes, but like leading up to that, like the first like 7 episodes.
He saves 3 people. As Swamp Thing, he saves 3 people.
He saves them and then he disappears.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
But it's the same problem that everyone has with like the Godzilla movies. Is that like, oh, you want to see Godzilla in the Godzilla movie? Well, you have to get through this random dude first and his life and his problems. I feel like if it was focused on like Swamp Thing like facing off against the Rot, which is
I know it. I know the Rot. I thought that's who Woodrow became. I didn't realize that Woodrow becomes this other character. I didn't. Yeah. So yeah, I thought.
No, Floronic Man is tied in with the Green, but they do introduce a lot of elements of the Rot. So that's kind of how they try to tie in all the ghost stuff. So like sort of with Abby's stepsister, with the first dude that Swamp Thing kills, and then like the Rot like brings him back as like a monster.
Right.
Like that sort of stuff. And so yeah, I would have liked to see more of that. Like, so maybe more people are like transforming into these like sort of creatures, and then Swamp Thing is like, you know, facing off against them. And so I would have liked it if that was the focus of the episodes, was like him like going up against all these like monsters that are being formed by the virus across town, and like, you know, and how that goes, because it would be a lot more challenging for him, I'd say, as well. But yeah, they didn't even really they were always just talking about like darkness is on the horizon, it's darkness, but they never really like go too deep into it. And so I mean, for me, like, I'm lucky because like I knew what they were talking about, because like I know, you know, the Swamp Thing mythos, but I would imagine for people who don't know like what the Rot is, or like how that mythos is set up, it was probably very confusing.
Gotcha. I understand. Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much my last point, was I just would have liked more Alex / Swamp Thing,
right?
You know, throughout the show. So yeah, that was me. One thing I will say.
Sure.
So yeah, the CW sort of aspect, like the CW dramatic aspect of the show, you know, it's very on brand. So they had the same thing in Arrow, same thing in Flash.
You watched all of those too?
I watched Arrow.
Okay.
Up until a point, and then I fell off of that. And then
Yeah.
Flash, I watched like the earlier parts of it.
I will tell you, you know what I'm watching actually? I'm watching it separately. Julie and I are both watching Superman and Lois. We haven't gotten fully into, but it's similar in that respect, because you've got the superhero stuff. Clearly, you've got Superman, but you have a family happening, and then you have all this other. It's very typical CW drama in that respect, but it's still fun to watch. It's good, you know? So it's pretty cool.
You know, there's Supergirl, like like it. So like the CW verse, there's like a lot going on there, and they have a style, and you know they've made that style, you know, work for them, and so yeah, with Swamp Thing, it was very in line with that, where, you know, you have all this this juicy drama going on the sidelines of that. I thought that the story with Matt and his mom was pretty interesting.
Right.
That was definitely a twist I didn't see coming.
That was cool. I liked it. Yeah. I liked it. That was cool. Between that and Avery, like, that was very, like, it feels like if you've ever watched the show Banshee combined with Predator, which is crazy, but you know? So Banshee's probably my favorite non-superhero TV show. Like that and True Detective are neck and neck, I think.
Oh yeah, don't I know it? And yeah, so with that one, they also went like full like soap opera to the point where he's like, I'm your father, and it's like, what? Like, I was like, wow, this is a soap opera.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that was, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, because I thought that, you know, he would kind of be just like the standard pretty boy, like love interest, which you know, he is at the beginning. He's kind of like this, it's like perfect man for the girl to be into. But yeah, as the story keeps going, like it sort of reveals all this. Sort of reveals all this stuff that's been going on behind the scenes, and so as far as like the drama portion goes, I thought that was pretty good.
Right.
And I like that bit.
Sure.
And
I will say,
I mean, they both die at the end too. Spoilers. So that was also unexpected.
Oh, by the way, that's another thing. Every moment is a horror thing about to happen. I know he's driving drunk. This is Matt, the son of the cop. Jennifer Beals, she did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very cool job because she's also like a corrupt cop, separate from what's happening between her and Avery. Like she's like, she is holding the town together just like Avery is.
It's pretty cool. Like the scene where the dude is trying to like blackmail her.
Yes, and she fucking cold-blooded.
Like, quick draw McCraws him.
Done.
Like,
awesome. That was very, very cool. In the middle of the swamp, of course. The swamp is the place to kill. That's it. That's the dumping ground. But Matt, her son, after finding out that Avery's her dad, spoiler, we're spoiling this whole show, of course, but and then that moment happens, and then he's despondent, and he's getting drunk, and he's I don't even know if he went to Delroy's at that point, but he's just drinking and he's driving home, and I did not see him running into the that thing was it's such a fascinating element when they do that in film, when you get in that like completely blink of an eye car crash that you don't expect to, because if you've ever been in a car crash, it's scary, whether you're in a car or as a pedestrian, it's fucking scary. And it's in that moment, I was like I didn't think, I think he swerves at one point. So, like, after that, you're like, oh, shit, he swerved. He got out of it. He's okay. Like, he got out of... There was a moment he almost hit oncoming traffic, and then, like, boom, like, whatever the hell that was that he hit the roadblock or something. It was like, oh, damn, this where the fuck did that come from? Every time I'm watching the show late, by the way, like at 12, I'm always afraid I wake up neighbors, like 12:30, and that thing happens, like, whoa, what? It's an audible response on my end. Yeah. But
with the knife, this long ass knife, just right through the seat.
That's right. That's fucking great. That's right. I'm doing it disjustice by talking about all these bodies, and that's not even one of them. That's a great scene.
Yeah, turns out the real monster was the humans all along.
That's the whole point. But so just to wrap it up on my end, obviously I loved it. I love being like unexpectedly happy about something, and that's really what the DC universe does, right? With their TV shows, they've got no expectations, so they can do whatever the fuck they want. And here they delivered with a show. Sure, they threw some other shit at the wall, threw some other mystic arts. They're trying to put that stuff in there, but the horror, the bodies, the charm, it's the charm of this random backwater swamp town. You're right, everything is built on the swamp, and I'm not scared of that. I wanted to go to the swamp in any event. But what I will say, it made me think of the macro of what DC is doing, because you've got Titans, which is a very real show. Titans, you have these characters. A few of them are very, very superhero-y, but the rest of them are pretty down to earth. Like Nightwing is Nightwing / that Robin is as basic as you can get. He's the next level Batman, right? The younger trainee, the Batman understudy, if you will. But Titans, these younger superheroes in a city that are doing their thing, and I've always enjoyed that. I've said that for the longest time, that DC needs to push that storyline and just go as far as they can with that. If they bring that to the films, then great, they should. That's where they need to go. Then you've got, what else is out there? There's Titans, and what other live action DC TV do you have besides Doom Patrol? Is there anything else? Am I missing something?
Well, I don't know if Legends of Tomorrow is still going.
Okay.
But that was like another huge one. That was where they did the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Right. Oh, well, of course.
events.
I mean, yeah, of course. You've got Arrow and you've got Flash. You've got those other ones. They don't connect necessarily to this universe or whatever's happening here, but you have those other characters.
Yeah, that's true.
You have the,
and
you have the, you have the
they're like
CW
trying
stuff.
to connect the Flash stuff, and they're trying to connect the Flash stuff via multiverse, and
Gotcha.
so they had like Ezra Miller like crossover into the show and stuff for a little bit.
Right. I hate that personally, but it is what it is. But yeah, so what we do know of is you got Titans, you have Swamp Thing, one season that's been canceled, unfortunately. The whole thing we're talking about here, our instant discussion, and then you've got Doom Patrol. Doom Patrol is out there. Doom Patrol is as creepy and crazy, like less creepy, more crazy, more X-Men that DC of anything I've ever seen that DC's done, of anything I've ever read that DC's done. So how do you connect all this stuff? And Doom Patrol was in Titans. I mean, they were there. They were episode 3 or 4, right, in season 1?
Yeah,
Right?
They in terms of the TV stuff, they've been connecting like pretty thoroughly. So obviously began with Arrow, Flash crossovers, and then throwing Supergirl from her show into the Flash, and then Legends of Tomorrow just threw everyone together.
Right.
And Titans, Doom Patrol, that was like another like major connection between the shows. And so in terms of the TV shows, like that's pretty, that's been doing it a lot. I do feel like DC, at least for the foreseeable future, is going to try and put more energy back into the movies. So
sure.
They probably had to like sort of figure out a direction after Snyder left the captain's chair.
Of course. I mean, that's what I'm saying is the thing that what's missing for me, and I understand what your problem is with this show is that they were trying to crowbar the Mystic stuff into this by way of Blue Devil and the Madame Xanadu and these other characters that are happening here, the little weird storylines of that stuff, but it's the missing link of what DC needs. You've got the young guys, the young teams, Teen Titans, fast forward to Young Justice, right? That's happening, that animated show, which is I fucking love. I haven't gotten back to it, but you got Swamp Thing canceled, unfortunately. You got Doom Patrol happening. So Doom Patrol and Titans are concurrent, and they're going forward. So there's going to be a team up. There's going to be something, right, going forward. If the logical conclusion is going to be that at some point. But there's an in-between here of this Mystic Arts, because Doom Patrol gets into that. They do crazy stuff. They've got crazy villains and characters. We've talked about it, the Time Guy. Many different characters. Just the main villain that's fucking with them in season 1. Mr. Nobody, is that his name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You need a connector. There's a missing link. That missing link is Constantine. Like, they need a Constantine. They need a Dr. Fate. They need Zatanna. They need Justice League Dark to bring these things together, because this is where DC needs to go. Like, they're building something that is not there for superhero film or TV. Like, that's what they're doing. The animated shows it. That's why I love the animated so much. That's why I love these shows so much. It gets into it. And that's why I like John Constantine in tandem with the actor who plays him, Matt Ryan. The guy is awesome. So, I mean, he is possibly the next best representation of a comic book character after Kevin Conroy does Batman. Is Matt Ryan doing John Constantine? Like, he's born to do the role, So, and he did the show. Yeah. He did it. So we need to. The hope here is that we have a great time doing this podcast and people listen and enjoy it. But the other little bit of a hope is that somebody listens and says, fuck, these guys are right. Swamp Thing needs to come back, and John Constantine needs to come back and like make a full show. And this all needs to happen. There's so much more that can happen from these characters in these shows. So
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully. We'll get to the rest of what DC is offering for us in the way of Doom Patrol. Absolutely. John Constantine, I do want to jump to that because those animated shows are fucked up, like just as, if not more fucked up than this live action one. But the John Constantine show by itself was cool. So, and going forward with Titans, just the same.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, yes, that was our coverage of the Swamp Thing TV show for our Essentially Heroes Halloween special.
That's right. So thanks for sticking with us, folks.
We hope it has been a sufficiently scary experience for everyone.
Yes. We do hope you enjoyed everything that we have offered. And where can they watch it? If somebody is listening to this for the first time, we spoiled the shit out of it the whole time, but where can somebody watch the show if they wanted to watch Swamp Thing right now?
I mean, if you look up Swamp Thing, I'm pretty sure the first result that will come up on the page is that it's free on the CW's website.
Gotcha.
So.
And I'm assuming is there a CW app that one can get on Roku or on their dashboard, the TV dashboard, their streaming areas?
Maybe. I haven't used it a lot, so I wouldn't know all the details. I feel like there is, because I feel like CW did launch something, and then, but everyone was already on HBO Max, so nobody used it.
Right.
But yeah, there probably is. I know that they have their own thing going for the animated stuff that they had going on, like their Vixen show and their Constantine animated miniseries. So yeah, there could be. Worst case, you got to pull up the laptop.
That works. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right, team. Enjoy. Thanks so much for listening. And please like us on Instagram and YouTube when the show does come out.
Yes. And with that, have a happy Halloween.
Boo. Enjoy. Happy Halloween, folks.